Hello and welcome to the Enhancement Talent Monday edition. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm Aaron Fortis from WKDQ along with my broadcast colleague here.
It's the Rob from 106.1 KISS FM, and today we've got a fun. I like when we do these topics.
Yeah, you know what? I was kind of thinking about this. Of course, we talked a little bit about Global Force Wrestling and Jeff Jarrett kind of building things up. And, you know, you obviously need something big if you're going to compete or at least launch a new wrestling organization. Mm-hmm. And not only do you need TV, and that's going to be his biggest obstacle, I do think, with Jeff Jarrett. You're going to need somebody to build around.
You have a little bit more faith in this, I think, than I do.
I do have faith because I think that Jeff Jarrett, I mean, if you look back to when TNA started, it was just Jeff Jarrett and his father that were kind of getting this off the ground, and there was no Dixie Carter directly involved or
it was
all
the
energy. It was like
it's true.
Yeah, it was just the Jarretts, and they had a pretty good concept going for the first couple years. It just didn't get out to the masses because they were only on pay-per-view.
That's true. I do remember watching their first show, but also I do think that 12 years ago in 2002, the wrestling landscape was a bit different. And although very difficult, more possible than now to launch a new federation.
Yeah, and you just have to do things different, but you have to have somebody to build around. So my thoughts, were swirling around guys that, yes, you want somebody that's got a name, but you don't want to attach yourself like TNA has done so many times to guys that just had a WWE contract for no other reason than that they had a contract. So then my mind went to other guys that, didn't really get their full shot in WWE. Guys that should have had a bigger name, should have been bigger than they were, whether it was WWE or something else. Turns out all my guys were WWE predominantly.
So are mine, for the most part.
So we're going to give our top five, and not in any particular order, of guys that should have been bigger. And to me, some of these guys, they could be, the guys that he builds around.
Underutilized talent. My order will not be in, ranking order, but I will go in order of, how often you hear their name brought up,
sure.
Likelihood, or like stereotypical names.
And I'm gonna start off with a guy that definitely could not be built around these days because he's past his prime, but somebody that they tried to build TNA around, and that is Ken Shamrock.
Okay.
And I know that may sound weird, but I just don't feel like we got everything we could have out of him in his WWE days.
Boy, I don't know if I agree with that or not. I almost feel like he had a run that was better than it should have been.
Really?
But I don't know if I agree with that either. I'd say I'm in the middle on that one. That's not a bad choice.
I feel like Ken Shamrock was... Now, I'm not going to put him all the way on the level with Kurt Angle, but I feel like he is somebody who came out of a different form of martial arts and wrestling that shouldn't have been a good professional wrestler and ended up being a pretty darn good professional wrestler.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah, you make a good point.
I think he could talk. I think he could work in the ring, and he was believable because of that MMA background. Mm-hmm. And I just think it just seemed like he did have a meteoric rise, but then it just kind of went away, and he was gone.
I guess my problem with Ken is that I feel like he had a lot of good matches, but not a lot of great matches, if any. Mm-hmm. There weren't those great matches. The great match he was a part of, he was a referee for at WrestleMania 13.
I'll go with a different name on my list. Another Ken, as a matter of fact, and it's not Kennedy, although I wanted to put him on this list because at one time I thought he was going to be the next Rock.
I wonder if I know who this is. Okay.
Ken Doane, actually. Kenny Dykstra.
I was not thinking... I thought you were going to say Patera.
Not Ken Patera, no. Kenny, I'm going to go with Kenny Dykstra, Ken Doane from the Spirit Squad because everybody thought he would be the standout guy.
That's true.
Everybody thought that when this group is done, he would be the guy that goes on to bigger things. But it turns out it was Dolph Ziggler.
I can't believe that it's only been Dolph from that group.
I know.
That was a talented fivesome.
It really was. Well, 4 of the 5 guys were talented.
Okay.
Nick Mitchell, I don't think, was the guy that ended up dating... Who did he end up dating? Was it Tori Wilson?
That sounds right, actually.
But they never put him in the matches. Nikki... no. Was
Mickey?
he Nikki? No, he was Mitch.
Oh.
Nikki was Dolph Ziggler. But they never put him in a match. Like, he would just stand on the outside and never really wrestle. The other guys were good.
My favorite of the group was Mikey. Like the little kind of rambunctious one.
Mike Mondo, and he's done a lot of things for Ring of Honor still. You haven't really heard a lot from Kenny. Of course, Dolph has done well. And Johnny Jeter was, he'd been around for a long time in OVW, and always everybody thought he might be the next Chris Jericho, and he didn't do anything. So, but yeah,
He might be the next guy to host a podcast.
So yeah, it's true. So maybe all of these guys from the Spirit Squad, could be considered on this list. But as young as Ken Doan was, and I think he's still working out there. But I mean, he's not even 30 years old yet.
That's probably
true. He could still be a star. So yeah, we'll see. That's another guy I think could have done well. And I had another name on this list too, but I'm gonna put him just out of the top 5, and that's Sean O'Hare.
Really? Okay, I don't disagree with that.
Pretty good worker, and actually the gimmick that he had when he was with Roddy Piper was pretty good. But I'm going to put him just outside. Oh
yeah, in like 03-ish.
Yeah.
I do remember that. He had a good look.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of memories of him. Like, I mean, I've seen him in WCW, and I've seen him, with Jindrak, was it? Mark Jindrak?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't have a lot of like I loved him moments or like this was awesome moments of him.
Yeah.
But I do agree his best work was probably with Piper in 2003.
Here's another guy on the list that again, and that's really what this list is about. You didn't get enough of them. At least for me.
You're absolutely right.
And Paul Burchill, not the pirate Paul Burchill, but when they brought him back to ECW, I mean, besides the inference of the incest between him and his sister, like he put on some solid matches.
His name bounced around in my head for this, but again, I actually thought the incest angle was maybe the best thing he'd been a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the deal with him and his sister after they quit making it seem like they were kind of an item. But that could have been bigger.
She was cute.
She was, and she became Winter in TNA, and then she disappeared from there. So maybe you put her on the list too. So Paul Burchill on the list, and my last two guys are guys that I do think still have a lot of potential and could possibly have a company built around them as top stars, or at least top upper tier stars. The first on that list, John Morrison.
Oh, that's a great choice.
I feel like John Morrison.
That's a great choice.
I feel like John Morrison left the WWE at his peak.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting ready to be huge, and then he was gone.
I agree. That's a great choice.
It took him a long time to get there. I mean, his promo skills were getting better. His work was slowing down and getting a little more scientific, rather than just all the flips.
And he's one of those guys that I do have memories of, and would get excited to see work. That's a great choice.
When he went into that main event level, I thought that he was ready for start.
And he fit.
Yeah, he could have done it. So I look forward to him coming back to the WWE, or maybe going someplace like Global Force Wrestling.
I think he'll be back at some point.
I hope so. I really hope so, because I get a great look. John Morrison, great guy. And here's my guy that I think every company in the business has dropped the ball on, because he's got the look, he's got the promo skills, and he doesn't look like everybody else, and that is Matt Morgan.
That's not a bad choice either.
He's improved over the years on, WWE put him with that horrible stuttering gimmick.
For a little bit he was stuttering.
And that was bad. But then, I mean, he was kind of stuck in a hard time. I mean, he still had a lot of guys to compete with, like Brock Lesnar when he was at his height.
He looked like Lesnar. And
he did. And
yeah.
I think that's why they had him dye his hair black and all that stuff. But after Lesnar was gone for a while, I mean, here's this guy that just is gigantic, and he can work. And then TNA just drops the ball with him too, because he could have been their champion when they had other guys stepping in there that just didn't make sense. So
those are some good choices there. Those last two especially, I think, are really good.
Yeah, I think especially those two, and who knows? I mean, if I'm building a wrestling organization from the ground up these days, I'm gonna put Matt Morgan as the guy to build it around.
He's your champ.
That's me. Yeah. So
the main event of Eric's promotion is going to be John Morrison versus Matt Morgan.
There you go. Yeah.
You know what? I can't say disagree.
That could be money. Add some other new guys, build them up around them, and get people to know them.
All right.
That could work. Anyway, there you go. There's my 5 guys. Well, 6 guys. I threw in another one that should have been bigger. And coming up in part 2, Rob's going to reveal his list.
And my list is completely different from Eric's. There will be no names that match, and you can watch that by just clicking the video right beneath this one.
This is Enhancement.
We'll sign off for right now. Check out part 2.